Hey everyone, welcome back. Now, when I was down on one of my recent trips to Florida, I was in an area called Sarasota, Florida. Beautiful, beautiful area, wonderful time. But one of the things that was a true highlight that I was able to do while I was in Sarasota was to visit the Marie Selby Gardens. This is a wonderful, wonderful botanical gardens. Now, there was one souring note to this in the fact that the day that we showed up to do it, that the actual greenhouses were closed, so they gave us a half-price admission. Now, the only downfall to that is the greenhouse were really the absolute highlight that I was really stoked to see, because they have a massive carnivorous plant. They got a 5,000 plus orchid species collection, 3,500 bromeliads. This would have been absolutely over the top for me. And that was closed. However, the gardens itself definitely made up for the day. So, hopefully you guys will enjoy my little walking tour of the Marie Selby Gardens. Enjoy! The minute you walk through the front door, you are struck by the sheer amount of life, the diversity, the colors, shapes, and textures. The beautiful orchids, bromeliads, and epiphytes surround you. You're completely removed from the city life, transported into a new world. These beautiful dendrobiums, the Marie Selby Botanical Gardens is a 15-acre garden. And as you can see here, the gardens are located on the grounds of the former home of Marie and William Selby. Their selfless act has given us this outstanding garden for generations to enjoy. I was an absolute overload. I have no idea what the name of this plant is, but I'm going to call him Captain Ouchie. Covered in spines, extremely primitive plant. The diversity is incredible. The shapes, textures, and colors. It's a true botanical dream. I hope to show you, through this walkthrough, the incredible diversity of this collection. Because this garden features more than 20,000 living plants, of which 5,000 to 6,000 of those are orchids, about 3,500 bromeliads, and many, many others. The garden is set up in many different sections. There's tropical rainforest. There's an Asian-inspired bamboo garden. There's a very primitive cycad or primitive forest with cycads and tree ferns and some plants that have been around since the dawn of the dinosaurs. There's a very, very impressive section with desert plants. Here we are entering into the primitive plants, the cycads, tree ferns, other types of primitive ferns. You almost feel like a velociraptor from Jurassic Park should be poking its head out amongst the foliage. Beautiful aroids like your philodendrons and your monsteras. These are not small house plants like we often see at our home centers and garden centers where we live that we bring into our home. These epiphytes are often very, very large plants that you'll see many of in this walkthrough. Some are the size of buildings. As they climb their way and weave their way around the structure,
beautiful bird's nest ferns. These are tree ferns. If you've ever grown orchids or often used different types of potting mediums like the ABG mix, the Atlanta Botanical Gardens mix, it calls for parts of tree fern. And the tree fern is actually harvested from the root of that plant. More primitive ferns. How do you tell a fern is a fern? You flip it over and you look for the spores. To be a true fern, it reproduces by method of spores. After this, we entered into one of the sections of the bamboo forest. Very incredible, very striking bamboo with its striped and variegated stems. Bamboo is not a tree. Bamboo is actually more closely related to grasses, but in tropical climates, it is the primary source of construction. We'll call it timber. It's not wood, but it's the primary construction material because it's extremely resistant to rot and handles moisture very well. This is the palm fronds on this tree were massive. And by massive, I mean 40, 50, 60 feet long massive. This one palm frond here that we're showing, off to the right here, spans over 2 entire lanes of a driveway. Now, when we were there was a special exhibit for Salvador Dali, Gardens of the Mind. It was many of his obscure and often eclectic art forms are visible throughout the gardens, such as the piano in the middle of a pond, and just to the left of this reflecting pond is a nice place to sit and relax, albeit in Dali's style, a large set of lips. Coming from a northern climate where I hail from, spending time in this garden, I could spend days here. The diversity of the plant life is incredible. The growth rate of some of these plants is incredible. The beautiful architectural details that they've put throughout. This is the back side of that reflecting pond. There's the back, you can see just through that little red through the trees there, through the plants. That is that pair of lips, and you can just see the back of the piano. It's such a wonderful place to come and just relax and completely recharge yourself from your everyday life. Back in the Asian garden, some beautiful sculpture. The many different forms of bamboo. A very most impressive tree. A more whimsical kind of artwork or sculpture. Different types of orchid cactuses and ferns and such, bromeliads. But this tree to me was the absolute highlight, and I call it the centerpiece of the garden. This is a banyan tree. That's me standing in amongst the roots. Some of those above ground roots were 5-6 feet tall in sections. It is a most impressive tree. Looks like something inspired by Tim Burton or something you'd expect to see in Harry Potter. But I spent a lot of time enjoying this tree. This is an incredible tree. This is Eucalyptus deglupta, the rainbow eucalyptus, and the bark is colored. The bark looks like it has melted wax crayons all throughout it. All the colors of the rainbow are on this impressive tree. Now, I had a very special guest with me. It was actually, I was the guest to her. And I had the pleasure of spending the afternoon in this beautiful garden with my dear friend, Miss Sandy Moore. She toured me around all over the state, showing me all sorts of different things. Here's Sandy here up in the canopy. And when we saw that beautiful rainbow eucalyptus, she wanted one of those for her yard. It's native to Ecuador. This is all boardwalk that is built to all bring you up into the canopy. And it's all built around the roots of this banyan tree. Impressive Monstera deliciosa leaves. Another pond with a beautiful waterfall. All in the canopy. More primitive ferns. It's a plant that most are fairly common with, but most don't realize it gets the size of a house if you'll allow it. You got to climb all the way to the absolute top platform of this canopy to get one extremely striking view, to look down at that super impressive banyan tree. Now, mangroves play an extremely important part on the coastline of southern Florida. They protect against erosion, and mangroves are a very, very valuable part of the ecosystem. They actually grow above the water and send down roots through the salt water to the substrate. A very primitive plant. Spending time in the mangroves, it's a unique habitat all to itself. They almost look like floating rafts of plants, but they are in fact trees. And these are an often sight. These are coconut husks. These are coconuts that have floated, because that's their method of travel, is they float across different bodies of water, and then once they finally come to rest, then they will root. Tree will come. Now we're entering into the desert section. This had so many obscure and unique plants. Not a lot of desert around where I live, but to go and explore and see some of these plants from all over the world was very, very impressive, to say the least. Some of them don't even look natural. The way they've had to evolve and adapt to live in such an extremely harsh and arid environment. There's an awful lot of really, really ouchy plants here. I wasn't going around touching all these ones. Doesn't look like much of a plant. This looks rather ouchy.
It does. They make
even in this striking natural place. Even here, people feel the need to destroy. As we saw the graffiti on the bamboo. Another striking aroid. The leaves on some of these are impressive. That philodendron saloon on the right is probably almost 3.5, 4 feet across. Different bromeliads that are in bloom. I grow similar ones in my vivarium at home. But some of them get really large. There's an orchid cactus. Other bromeliads, different types of epiphytes. The diversity is absolutely incredible. Now they do have a large greenhouse, and they have a massive orchid collection, and they have a massive carnivorous plants collection. So I do hope to one day to be able to return and spend another day or two in the Marie Selby Gardens. That'll be another video, maybe 2. I could have done 4 or 5 videos on the footage I had from this garden alone already. Another unique fern. You see the spores. It's similar. It produces that husk-like from the dead leaves that capture moisture and debris, similar to what a bird's nest fern does. This is not attached to anything. It has created its own nest from its old leaves. Super, super cool. So, I hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as I've enjoyed it. I hope you will one day take a time to visit beautiful Sarasota, Florida, and go and see it for yourself. Because anytime you'd walk through these gates, it'll be different. Different flowers in bloom. I bet you if you went there once a week or once a month, you'd see things different every single time. So with that, thank you as always for watching and supporting. I'm going to keep doing it. Take care.